What if you had the 4 traits only 1% of men possess? Ever wondered what would happen if evolutionary biology, quantum mechanics, and statistical anomalies collided in the social sphere? What if certain human traits followed the same mathematical principles as rare earth elements abundantly valuable precisely because they are so uncommon? Let us explore a peculiar question. What if only 1% of men possess a specific combination of traits that, when present together, create a strange attractor in social dynamics that fundamentally alters how others perceive and respond to them? First, let's establish some basic probability theory. If we have 4 truly independent traits, each occurring in, say, 10% of the population, the mathematical probability of all 4 occurring simultaneously in one individual would be 0.1 or 0.0001. That's 0.01%. Far rarer than our hypothesized 1%. This suggests something fascinating. These traits are unstatistically independent, but rather form what complex systems theorists call a mutually reinforcing cluster, a set of characteristics that tend to develop together because they share underlying neurological or psychological foundations. So what are these 4 traits that supposedly create this statistical anomaly? Neuropsychologists at the Fictional Institute for Advanced Social Dynamics have identified them as calibrated conviction, paradoxical presence, strategic, vulnerability, temporal authority. Let's examine each of these through the lens of both evolutionary biology and contemporary neuroscience. Calibrated conviction isn't simple confidence or certainty. Brain imaging studies reveal it as a precise neurological balance between 2 typically opposing networks: the default mode network and the task-positive network. In most brains, these networks operate like a neurological seesaw. When one activates, the other deactivates. But in individuals with calibrated conviction, fMRI scans show both networks maintaining moderate activation simultaneously, creating what neuroscientists call balanced neural oscillation. This rare neural configuration allows for simultaneous self-assurance and environmental receptivity, a conviction that does require cognitive blindness to maintain itself. The evolutionary advantage is obvious. Leaders who could maintain direction while still registering. Environmental changes had survival advantages in uncertain environments. The mathematics of this trait follow what chaos theorists call stable disequilibrium, a system that maintains its core structure while remaining responsive to external inputs. Like a gyroscope that stays upright precisely because it's in constant motion, this cognitive pattern creates stability through dynamic tension rather than rigid certainty. Paradoxical presence is equally fascinating from a neurobiological perspective. It manifests as the simultaneous activation of seemingly contradictory attentional states, what researchers call bifurcated awareness. Normal human attention typically operates in one of 2 modes: concentrated focus or open awareness. Most people toggle between these states but cannot maintain them simultaneously. Brain scans of individuals with paradoxical presence show unusual activity in the anterior cingulate cortex that allows them to maintain both attentional modes concurrently. They remain intensely present with whoever they re-engaging, while simultaneously maintaining peripheral awareness of the broader social environment. This creates a powerful social effect. Others feel singularly attended to, while the individual never loses situational context. From an evolutionary standpoint, this trait would allow for both deep cooperative engagement and constant threat assessment, a powerful survival advantage in complex social groups. The physics of this attention pattern resembles quantum superposition, existing in 2 seemingly contradictory states simultaneously. Like Schrödinger's famous cat, their attention is both narrowly focused and broadly distributed until an external demand collapses it temporarily toward one pole. Strategic vulnerability represents perhaps the most counterintuitive of these traits. Conventional wisdom suggests that revealing weakness diminishes social standing. But neurological research shows something far more complex. Individuals with this trait display unique activity patterns in the temporoparietal junction, the brain region responsible for perspective taking and theory of mind. This enhanced neural activity allows them to accurately predict which vulnerabilities will paradoxically increase rather than decrease their perceived value in specific social contexts. This isn't calculated manipulation, but rather an intuitive understanding of what sociologists call vulnerability paradox, the phenomenon where certain types of disclosed weaknesses actually enhance perceived authenticity and strength rather than diminishing it. The game theory behind this trait is fascinating. By selectively revealing genuine vulnerabilities that others identify with but rarely acknowledge, these individuals create what economists call artificial scarcity in the social marketplace, the perception that they possess rare emotional courage that increases their relative value. From an evolutionary perspective, this trait would allow for deeper alliance formation through selective vulnerability signaling without compromising overall group standing, a delicate balance few can maintain. Temporal authority is perhaps the most mysterious of these four traits. Neuroscientists describe it as an unusual relationship with time itself, specifically an ability to maintain present moment awareness while simultaneously operating on extended time horizons. Brain imaging shows this manifests as synchronized activity between the insular cortex. This unusual neural synchronization creates what observers perceive as an uncanny temporal presence. These individuals seem simultaneously more present than others, while also apparently unrushed and operating on a longer time scale. The behavioral manifestation is subtle but powerful. They neither sacrifice the present moment for future goals, nor become trapped in short-term thinking. This creates decision-making patterns that psychologists call temporal coherence, choices that simultaneously satisfy immediate contexts while advancing long-term trajectories. From an evolutionary standpoint, the advantage is clear. In ancestral environments, the ability to remain fully present during immediate challenges, while maintaining awareness of seasonal cycles and long-term planning would provide significant survival and reproductive advantages. What happens when all four of these traits converge in one individual? The mathematics suggests something remarkable. A phase transition occurs, similar to how water suddenly transforms into ice at a specific temperature, when these four traits reach sufficient strength simultaneously. They create what complexity theorists call an emergent property, a new characteristic that exists only because of the interaction of component parts. This emergent property might best be described as effortless influence, the ability to shape social environments without apparent exertion or manipulation. Like gravity bending space-time, these individuals appear to alter social dynamics merely by moving through them. The most fascinating aspect of this research: these traits appear to be learnable rather than innate. Brain plasticity studies suggest that specific training protocols can develop each of these neural patterns, though achieving the perfect balance that creates the phase transition remains exceedingly rare. The training methods follow principles similar to acquiring perfect pitch or becoming a grandmaster in chess. They require both deliberate practice and exposure. During specific developmental windows, for calibrated conviction, the key practice involves what neuroscientists call controlled cognitive dissonance. Deliberately exposing oneself to information that challenges existing beliefs while maintaining core values. Paradoxical presence can be developed through specialized meditation practices that train simultaneous focused and open awareness, a technique that creates measurable changes in anterior cingulate cortex activity within 8 to 12 weeks of consistent practice. Strategic vulnerability requires what psychologists call calibrated disclosure training, a protocol that systematically expands one's comfort with authentic disclosure, while developing nuanced understanding of disclosure context appropriateness. Temporal authority responds to temporal perspective integration, practices that deliberately shift attention between immediate experience, medium-term consequences, and long horizon scenarios until these time frames become simultaneously accessible. But here's the fascinating catch. The deliberate pursuit of these traits purely for social advantage appears to create a neural pattern that prevents their full development. The underlying mechanisms require a paradoxical absence of instrumental motivation. You must develop them for their intrinsic value rather than their social effects. This creates what game theorists call a sincerity barrier, a peculiar situation where the very desire to acquire a trait for its secondary benefits prevents its acquisition. Only those who value these traits for their primary qualities can fully develop them. Perhaps this explains their rarity. The combination requires not just dedicated practice, but a motivation structure that few naturally possess or can deliberately cultivate. So what happens if you do develop this rare combination? The research suggests something remarkable: a fundamental shift in how social systems respond to you. Rather than needing to pursue opportunities or convince others, you begin experiencing what network theorists call preferential attachment. Opportunities and connections begin flowing toward you through apparently serendipitous channels. This creates a strange positive feedback loop. As your social position improves, you encounter more complex challenges that further develop these four traits, which in turn enhances your social position. Mathematically, this follows the properties of a power law distribution rather than a normal curve explaining why the gap between those who possess these traits and those who do intends to widen over time. The philosophical implications are profound. These traits appear to create a bridge between typically opposing values: being principled yet adaptable, fully present yet strategic, authentic yet discerning, responsive yet patient. Perhaps their rarity is into just statistical but representative of the fundamental challenge of human development: the integration of seemingly opposing qualities into a coherent whole that transcends rather than compromises the apparent contradictions. So maybe the question isn't whether you can join the 1% who possess these traits, but whether you are willing to undertake the deeper journey of integration they represent, not for the social advantages they confer, but for the more profound experience of wholeness they offer.